PowerPoint. You got my PowerPoint here. And so hopefully you can see that screen. And let me just start the presentation. All right. So my name is Andrew Goodliffe. I am Associate Dean for Admissions, Recruitment, and Fellowships at the University of Alabama. And I'm also a faculty member. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Go to the next slide. Can everyone see my slides okay? All right, I'll assume that's a yes. So as I say, I'm with the graduate school at the University of Alabama, and I'll tell you a little bit about the University of Alabama in a moment. In addition to sort of being involved in sort of the recruitment process, I'm also a faculty member. So I can sort of really share both sides of that with you. So I've actually had lots of students working with me, and nowadays I'm more on the side of helping students sort of achieve their academic goals. My specialty as a professor is I am a geophysicist. Reason there's a picture of a ship there is I actually do a lot of seagoing, seafloor mapping type work. I spend a lot of time out on ships, a lot of time getting Department of Energy and National Science Foundation funding and running big projects as well. So I'm very used to the whole concept of actually bringing students into my group and working with the students to help them achieve their goals. I do want to tell you a little bit about the University of Alabama. I know you all will have heard of us. We're the public state research flagship university in the state of Alabama, founded in 1831. We're an R1 research university, so we're very much interested and invested in getting our students into those research projects, getting them out with doctoral degrees as well. We've got about 40,000 students on campus. About 5,600 of those are grad students. And these grad students are doing about 150 different programs. About half of those are doctoral programs. Things we're well known for, we have amazing alumni, very, very passionate alumni. And I know it's the same at UCF as well. All right, I want to start with some questions. What I want to know from you all is what are some of your intended grad school majors? And then also, what are some of your career goals? So I'd like you to put that information into the chat just to give me some context as to sort of what programs folks are interested in. So can folks hear me okay? Is the chat working?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, let's see if we have anything in the chat. Not yet. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
If you guys can put your intended grad school program, a program that you're interested in, as well as your overall career goal, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. So we got some coming in now. So information sciences, psychology, accounting, clinical psychology. Okay. Health sciences. So this is a good cross section here. So biomedical sciences, aerospace engineer, psychology. Okay, so we've got a number of psychologists. Okay, this is good. This gives me a good baseline. Professor of practice or industry researcher. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for sharing some of that. Now, thinking about sort of what your goals are, when you're working with faculty, you also have to think about, what those faculty are looking for in students. So this is probably a little bit of a harder question for you, but put in the chat box what you think potential faculty advisors are looking for in a student. So someone like myself, a student comes to me, what sort of things might I be looking for in a student that I want to bring into a grad program? So put some stuff in the chat there and just sort of tell me what you think as faculty we're looking for in a student. Again, a little bit of a harder question, but I am going to make you interact with me. Excellent. That's a wonderful answer. The first one there, person with a good attitude and the eagerness to learn. Let's get a couple more answers here, but that's an excellent one. Dedication and motivation towards goals. Brilliant. See if we can get a couple more. All right, let's move forward. Good research, interest, fit. Oh, that's an excellent one. Skills that complement your own, positive attitude, eagerness to learn, self-motivated, great communicator, and independent researcher. Good. These are all excellent questions. So depending on the audience that I'm talking to, very often the answer is great, good GPA. But to be perfectly honest, faculty, that's not, we're looking for that. Of course, we're looking for that, but it's not the main thing. It is things like passion. So if I'm talking to prospective students, one of the first things I'm looking for is that this person is excited about what they want to do. They're passionate. You can see their eyes light up when they're talking about their subject. That to me is actually one of the better predictors of success. Other things like ability to tell your story. We need to know, we want to know about the background. We want to know where you're coming from. We want to know about your goals. And so, that's very important. You do, of course, need a solid background in the field. If you've got research experience, and I know many of you probably do, undergrad research that's gold. That's very, very important. I'm typically looking for folks who have evidence of going above and beyond. They've done something more than just going to class and doing well in class. What have they done above and beyond that? And again, that's often reflected in the passion. Very often we're looking for well-defined career goals. That's important, but we also know that they may change. I know when I was coming into grad school, my goals really did change dramatically from the start to end, but that's okay. And again, great. So we're looking for really a well-rounded student. Now, someone mentioned fit. So that is also very important. So especially if you're talking to faculty who have a very distinct research speciality, you need to make sure that when you're talking with them, that your research speciality really fits with them. And this can be a hard thing to measure. So, what we really advise students to be looking at is, when you're thinking about approaching a faculty member, when you're talking to faculty members about potentially being a grad student, looking at what their research interests are on their webpage, the titles of their publications, and perhaps, they're grant active and they've been writing proposals to National Science Foundation, National Institute of Health, etc. Looking at what the dissertation topics of their students might be. And speaking of myself, my grants aren't necessarily what the dissertation topics are. There are some differences there. Then if you're approaching faculty members, making sure that you're treated well, making sure that that person responds to emails quickly, is polite in those emails. And I know it sounds very basic, but that's not always the case. you want to make sure that the person you're going to be working with is someone you can work with. If you're looking at a master's, you might be working with them for a couple of years. If you're looking at a doctorate, you might be working with them for 5 years. So you want to make sure it's someone that you can get along with and you can work with well. And in my capacity in the grad school, unfortunately, I often deal with students who don't work well with their faculty members. I always say that you can have the best student in the world, the best faculty member, but if the two of them don't work together, it's not going to work. And then also when you're thinking about that fit, if there's an opportunity to contact current grad students of that person, that's also really a really good thing to do. It may be that some of those current grad students are active on social media and they're talking about their research. Take a look at that as well. So, connecting with those faculty members, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So if it's a faculty member at your current institution, obviously best thing to do is go talk to them, and have a chat with them. You can Zoom with them as well, but it's probably more powerful just to go talk with them. A really good way of connecting with faculty, and hopefully you're doing some of this already, is going to conferences. Could be local conferences, could be state, could be national, and actually seeking out those people who you're interested in. This is an opportunity for you to find the leaders of your field and go talk with them. That's okay. Don't worry, a lot of students are like, oh, I can't go talk with this person. They're the best person in the field. Most faculty love talking with students. So even if it's, someone who's won a major prize, they're a Nobel Prize winner, go talk to them. They're normal people. So that's very important. Emails. If you write an email to a faculty member that you're interested in, it's very important that this is a well-written email. This is the sort of thing where you might want to go to your writing center to look at this. You're going to show this to one of your current faculty members. You're going to show it to your friends. This is your first contact and your first impression with a faculty member. So you want to make sure it's a good impression. In the grad school and as a faculty member, we're getting hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. Poorly written emails, that sort of thing, unfortunately don't get answered. So making sure that your email stands out. Another way that you can really tell a faculty member about yourself is through the statement of purpose that you're going to write. It may be that this is the first time that they learn about you. Hopefully not, but it may be. And so that statement of purpose has to have the key things about you in it. So statement of purpose, broadly speaking, you're going to tell the reader about your background, your professional preparation. You're going to tell them why you want to go to a particular university. So if you were writing a statement of purpose for the University of Alabama, that would be written specifically for the University of Alabama, specifically for the department that you're going to work for or want to work with. And then the other part of it really is, what do you want to do next? What are your career goals? What do you want to do after you leave, say, the University of Alabama? Now, statement of purpose, that's broadly what most of them contain. Different programs may have different requirements, so always look on the webpage for specific examples. Obviously, a CV is also going to tell an audience about yourself. LinkedIn profile. A lot of students underestimate the importance of this. Creating a good LinkedIn profile with a good summary statement about what you're about is very, very important. And this comes into sort of the first bullet point on this slide, which is your personal brand. And we talk a lot about this at the University of Alabama. So if you want to go and do Well, if your career goal is, for example, to be a research professor at an R1 university, you want to make yourself look like that. So you want to have a personal brand that reflects someone who is moving on that career trajectory. So making sure that your LinkedIn profile is consistent with that, making sure that other social media is consistent with that, making sure that you're going to conferences and you're meeting people and you become known as someone who's working in a particular field. So this is very important. Now, letters of recommendation, another very important thing. So hopefully one of the things that you're doing at UCF now is that you are getting to know faculty members because those faculty members are going to be the people that write the letters of recommendation. So this is a very important way to connect with faculty on both ends. You've got a faculty member who's writing the letter, and you've got another faculty member on the other end who's reading the letter. So hopefully the faculty members that you're working with now are folks who can comment on things like your work ethic, how you work in a team. Hopefully they can talk about maybe some undergrad research you've done, that sort of thing. So what you want to avoid is letters of recommendation that just talk about classwork. This student got a B in this class. You want these letters of recommendation to go beyond this. And then also I want to just mention networking. This is very, very important. So connecting with faculty, be it current faculty member, be it someone who you'll be working it with in the future, a lot of people get opportunities at the grad level because of a professor in their current program. It might be, well, I'll give an example of myself. As a geophysicist, I know geophysicists all over the world. So when a student comes to me and talks about potential programs, based on what they're interested in, I kind of know who to connect them with. And so using those networks to make other connections is really, really important. And to be perfectly honest, this is how a lot of people get opportunities in grad school. Even if you don't necessarily make that networking connection early on, it could be, you're talking to a faculty member and you say, hey, I applied to the University of Alabama. And that faculty might say, hey, I know someone there. I know Dr. Goodliff. At which point, all of a sudden, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to look at this application in detail. So never underestimate the importance of networking as well. All right, so communication is important to all graduate programs. So when you're talking to prospective faculty members, be it through email, be it in person, over a Zoom, you want to make sure that all the written and oral communication is really as good as possible. So every part of that is important when you're applying to graduate programs. So when I first interact with a student, from that first email, when they're first specifying their interest, I'm looking at that email. I'm looking at how that student is communicating, how they're getting across their argument, because they are making an argument. They're trying to say why they are a good fit for a program. We're looking for professionalism in the students. So all of this, when we're making final decisions, yes, there's all those application materials, but we're also taking into consideration our interactions with a student, both verbally and orally. And so when we're sitting around the table discussing who we should get in, who should get in the program, these are the sorts of things that get discussed. So pretty much every communication, whenever you're communicating with a prospective faculty member, all of that counts. So, make sure that, if you're sending an email, make sure that folks are reading that email over before you're sending it. And then, what are some things that are important qualities in grad students that you can get across as you communicate with prospective advisors? So in things like the statement of purpose, your emails, your Zoom discussions, we're looking for people who can formulate an idea, argue that idea, and come to a well thought out conclusion, can organize thoughts clearly and coherently. And then fundamentally, what we're looking for in a grad student, and this is probably the most important thing for a grad student, is does that prospective grad student exhibit critical thinking skills? So when you're talking to a prospective faculty member, these are the sorts of things they're looking at, in addition to passion, all that sort of stuff. We want someone who really can think through an idea. And if you're looking at a PhD program, we're looking for someone who ultimately can come up with a whole new idea, whole new way of doing things. So critical thinking skills are very, very important. Some final tips when you're thinking about working with, communicating with faculty members. Never underestimate the importance of talking to professors at your current institution to strategize on grad school goals. So if you haven't done this already, at the end of a class, just go up and talk to a faculty member. Say, look, I'm interested in grad school. Can you give me some advice? Take advantage of office hours. Go talk to that faculty member to pick their brains about getting into grad school. Don't treat this as an individual activity. This is very much a team activity. So remember, your professors have been through this process. They've applied to grad school. Could be 2 years ago, could be 20 years ago, but they've done this. And they've also, worked with a lot of grad students. So use their expertise. And then also use those professors and any willing friends and anyone else who's willing to read through any documents. And again, that could be the initial email that you're sending to a professor, could be the statement of purpose, could be a research statement, could be a CV, LinkedIn profile, etc. Always make sure that other people have looked at this before you send this in and before you share it with a prospective advisor. Now, as you move into a graduate program, obviously funding is very, very important. You want to go to a university that's going to give you research funding, or just funding scholarships to support you in the program. And that is something that you are anxious about. But when you're first talking with a prospective advisor, I really would advise not talking about funding at that stage. Keep the focus on what you're interested in, what you want to do, what your goals are. If a professor is very, very interested in you and wants to bring you into a program, they're going to try and get you funding. This is, if they really want you, they're going to try and get you by offering you some funding. So the conversation would naturally move towards funding. I know for me, one of my roles at the University of Alabama in the grad school is to make sure that we can land the top students. So I'm the one that, when a faculty member has a really good student, they'll come to me and try and see if we can find funding. We just had a big fellowship deadline yesterday where that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to find the funding for the best students. Even some of those programs where the students are typically not funded, some of the, say, business masters or something like that. So I'm actually going to stop talking here, and I'm going to give you guys a chance to ask any questions. And don't hesitate to ask any questions. I've worked in this I've worked in sort of the graduate admissions and recruitment realm for about 10, 15 years now, and I've been a faculty member for much, much longer. So again, there's a lot of experience I can bring to the table, and I would love to share that with you. So feel free to put questions in the chat, or I would be very, very happy to talk to you in person as well. So feel free to unmute. As a professor, I'm also used to awkward silences, waiting for questions as well. So
I definitely want to encourage you guys to go ahead and ask any questions. You can go ahead and unmute or put it in the chat. I think that this is a great opportunity to ask any questions that you have, grad school related, or any curiosities that you have in terms of being in grad school, going to grad school, the graduate school application process. So go ahead and ask any of those questions in the chat if you feel comfortable to do so. We definitely encourage you guys as well.
I'll actually stop sharing for the moment, just so I can see the names better. Yeah, and as was just stated, I mean, I deal with all of the admissions side, all the recruitment side, so I can answer any general questions on grad school. And one thing we do value, by the way, is actually stepping up and asking questions. That's very, very important. So that's actually something we very much value.
So we do have one question from Seth. They want to know, is it a positive thing to to go to another school for a graduate program that is different from their undergraduate? So like, let's say their undergraduate major was psychology, and then they go to graduate school, or they're interested in another graduate program that's not related to psychology, as an example.
Yeah, so it's okay. So any of those is okay. So it's okay to go to a different university. It's okay to stay at the same university, but part of the question was changing program as well?
Yes, so is it a positive thing to do to go to another school for a graduate program that is different from undergraduate? So Seth, do you mean the school itself, or do you mean the actual program? So for example, your undergraduate major differing from your prospective graduate program.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, both of those are very common, obviously. And, you know, there's not necessarily a career reason why students shouldn't do that. We have lots of students who, at the graduate level, choose to go into a slightly different field. Can't be massively different. You can't necessarily go from art history to nuclear engineering. That's going to be a little tough. But you know, we have, in my own field, you know, we have students who come into geology and geophysics from mechanical engineering. But let's see, Seth was just saying a different university. So yeah, I mean, so lots of students want to stay at the same university, and they have very valid reasons to do that. We have lots of students who do that at the University of Alabama. The majority of our applicants are University of Alabama students. I actually think there's a lot of value in going to another university, because different universities do things differently. So, you know, it might be that, let's think about psychology. There was a lot of psychology students on here. So it might be that a particular research emphasis is different at a different university, and they think about things differently. They have different methods. So it's good to be exposed to other ways of thinking. For myself, I did my bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree at 3 different universities. And I wouldn't do it a different way. But I also know, our old dean of engineering did all of their degrees at the University of Alabama, and he did well. So there's not really a yes, no answer to this. It's really, what fits best into your life plans.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Mr. Goodliffe, because I did both of my undergraduate and master's here at UCF. But I really took into consideration the program and like which program was best for me. So I could have gone to FIU Miami or UCF, but I knew that UCF was the better program, the better fit for me personally. So
Absolutely.
definitely really taking into account all the factors, Seth. So would you want to move out of state, the cost of living? What do you prioritize? But the actual program as well, if it's more catered to you and your interest.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that fit.
Mhm.
What is the fit? And the fit is it's all of these things. It's cost of living, it's your interests, it's your comfort with your current program, it's where you want to live. There's, fit is, it's a big word. Now, I should also say it's good to move out of your comfort zone as well. That's where the really exciting stuff gets done. But some people, that's that again, they may have strong family ties, etc. There's got to be some other questions here. What sort of common questions might come up typically?
So the question that I'm thinking about is, would you say, oh, wait, hold on, James actually asked a question. Okay, so he's wondering, is an accelerated bachelor's to master's program worth looking into if you're on the fence about going for a master's degree?
100%. So we have a similar program at the University of Alabama, and I think these are wonderful opportunities to explore a master's. I know at the University of Alabama, and it's probably the same for you folks, it's a chance to shorten the path to both degrees, save some money. If that is an opportunity and you're eligible for that, yeah, absolutely. No one's going to look at that negatively. Everyone's going to look at that positively. So yeah, I think that's accelerated master's programs are a really good deal. And I just wish more students would do it at my own university. And I think it's probably just folks not knowing enough about it, to be perfectly honest. So that's a great option. We even have accelerated path from bachelor's to doctoral program as well. So that's an option for some of our students. So yeah, so I'm very glad that you have that sort of program.
Okay, so Tori wants to know, a lot of the classes at UCF are online mode only. Any advice for connecting with professors and faculty that are online?
Yeah, I mean, even, with online, and it's the same at the University of Alabama. Those online classes, there's going to be office hours for those. And making sure that you're taking advantage of those office hours. So pretty much every professor you're going to talk to is going to complain about students not coming to office hours. This is a constant across the world. You need to take advantage of that. That is effectively part of your tuition. You've got these folks who are experts in their field. Talk to them, pick their brains. Another common thing about professors is we love talking about what we do. So there's very rarely going to be an opportunity, there's very rarely going to be a time when that professor does not want to talk to you. Your bigger problem is going to be getting out of that conversation in a timely manner. So, it's actually a frustration of mine that, students who are looking at grad school don't make use of their professors enough, because their professors are experts in this. Talk to them. What are some paths forward? What are some what are some good grad schools you can go to in the field that you're looking at? And it could be it's UCF, it could be it's University of Washington, it could be University of Alabama. But making those connections, and almost certainly a professor that you talk to will have connections at another university, and they can help you with that transition to grad school.
For sure. And one thing that I also would like to add, if I can, Mr. Goodliff, too, is I'm thinking about the class size at UCF. So our class sizes are like 300 students, 200 plus students, but I think that it's safe to say that not all of the 300 students go into those office hours, and the students that the professor will remember will be those small amount of students that do go to their office hours. Or even like the online classes, a lot of classes have probably 40 plus students in those online classes, and not all of them reach out to them through email or web courses. So the students that they will remember are the ones that reach out. So just keep that in mind as well, especially for those who are a little bit more hesitant due to the class size. They don't meet all the 300, they only, meet with a few, and that can kind of give you guys comfort knowing that they'll most likely remember you if you reach out and start building that connection.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Those students who are asking the questions, who are coming to chat, those are the ones we know. Those are the ones, again, I wish all 300 students in one of those classes could come to office hours, but we're probably kind of fortunate not all of them come. Yeah, so even in those large classes, don't hesitate to go to office hours. Don't hesitate to raise your hand. If I'm writing letters of recommendation, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. The student, it might be they've worked in my research lab as well, but, in class, this student was always asking questions. They were intrigued, they were passionate, all that sort of thing. When we're talking to our students at the University of Alabama about grad school, we actually start with a freshman class. So I actually go to our freshman orientation and I talk to our new freshmen, because one of the things I want to get across to them is the importance of starting to think and plan about grad school if you're thinking about it, and the importance of talking to faculty and building those relationships, because basically you want to foster those relationships where you have people who can write you good letters of recommendation and people who can give you advice. So, that's important. Again, pet peeve of mine. People don't do that enough.
So Nellie wants to know, when you're considering multiple candidates, all competitive in their own way, and can only pick some to offer the positions to, what usually is the deciding factor on who gets the offer and who does not? That was actually my general question that I was going to ask. So thank you, Nellie. Yes.
Well, that's actually a very, very good question. And it's a hard one to answer because it's something that is really hard on our side of the process. Because, the reality is 98% of our graduate applicants are really, really good. And, often it comes down to those personal interactions, to be perfectly honest. So a graduate school application, the purpose of it is as a predictor of success. So it's our tool that we use to predict the success of a student, because obviously we only want to bring in people who are going to be successful. And so when we're sitting around that table talking about who is going to be admitted. And that table may be a virtual table, but it's often, hey, this is a really good student. They've got excellent grades. They've got a great statement of purpose. But, you know, I've actually talked to this student in person, and they come across as a very passionate, very dedicated person. Or it could be, you know, the letter of recommendation, particular letter of recommendation, someone knew the recommender and has actually called them up. So for my own, you know, students who are applying to my own program, I will actually call up the recommenders. I won't just go by the letter. I will actually give them a call and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit about that person? So it's that feedback which often makes the difference. Or it could be something like clearer career goals, because when we admit someone, we want to make sure that we can help them achieve their career goals. So it's very rarely something like, hey, this person has a 0.2 GPA higher. That's not usually the reason. It's usually harder to quantify reasons. So I know that's not a great answer, but I mean, I was dealing with this yesterday. We were making final fellowship decisions, and I only had 24 fellowships to give out, and I had 100 students. Every one of those students was fantastic. So it came down to these little things, something in the research statement, something in the statement of purpose, something in the letter of recommendation, just, a particular comment by a faculty member. But it hurt because there's 75 people I couldn't fund. And I actually fretted about that all night. A good question. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Nelly, it's those small details. So, and this is why it's important to talk to these folks in person. You want to get across your story. Why should they admit you? Because, competitive programs, I'll talk about our psychology program since there's so many psychology folks here. Our psychology PhD program has probably 800 applications each fall. We admit 12. And so it's really competitive. It comes down to those little things, those small details.
So we have about 5 minutes left. One last question that I want to ask you, Mr. Goodliff, is what can our students do now in order to best prepare for this upcoming graduate cycle, especially if our students are already entering their junior year or even their senior year? What can they do now with the time that they have?
Well, so if folks I think most of your folks have probably been involved in some sort of undergrad research, yeah? Is that probably true?
It seems like it with the comments. But yeah, if they haven't, or if they feel like they need more experience, what piece of advice would you give them? Especially if they're really interested in graduate school, but maybe they need that a little bit more experience.
Yeah, so making sure that they are talking to faculty members. I apologize if you hear the loud noise in the background. It's our emergency drill going on. But making sure they're talking to faculty members, making sure, if they're looking at doing, I'll use psychology. If they're looking at doing psychology at Washington State University, I don't know if Washington State has psychology, making sure that they're talking to faculty who potentially know about that program, making sure they have enough information. Most of our academic disciplines are very small. Again, so if someone says they want to do geology, so if someone says they want to do geology in a particular field, chances are I know the people at the university that student wants to go to. If it's fairly early on and you haven't done any form of undergrad research, do undergrad research. Get involved in that. That, honestly, if you're looking at going into a research master's or a PhD, and you've done undergrad research, that can make the difference of being admitted or not being admitted. That's really, really important, because again, you are sort of showing that you've already done what is going to be expected of you in that program. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't had the opportunity to go to conferences and meet the people who work in your field. Again, those personal connections make the difference. Networking is really, really important. So if you haven't done some of those things, make sure you do those. Yeah, again, that will make the difference. Oh, I think you're muted. You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I wanted to thank you for the insight that you shared and the answers to the questions. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining, especially with the technical difficulties happening in the earlier. But with that said, this concludes our session for Welcome Wednesday, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Good
Bye.
luck.
Have a great afternoon.